What is up, guys? Armchair Tuna back again with another video, and in today's video I am going to show you all the top 5 best armor sets for taking out the bosses in the game. Now, before we get into this video, I would like to thank Aardvark Josh 1 for suggesting for me to make this video. I'm going to give all credit to him. He was the main reason why this video is even be able to come out in the first place. But a few rules for this video is that it is only going to be the summonable bosses. That means no assistant manager, no director, only the bosses that you can summon. But anyways, guys, let's not waste any more time and let's get on to the first build. So starting out with our first build, we have the Ladybug Healer build. Now, the Ladybug armor has been a fan favorite ever since the game launched, all the way back in 2020, I believe. And it's for a good reason. The Ladybug's armor set gives out some of the best bonuses in the game. Now, it has changed over time. The full set bonus, instead of doing passive healing, has been changed to occasionally heal after blocking attacks, as long as increased healing for the sleek effect, as well as the block strength for its main effect, and the heavy armor to give out extra resistance. But what takes the cake is the increased healing. The increased healing increases all health, all healing from all sources. It's just what makes the armor some of the best. Now, for the weapon, we have the Tick sword as well as the Ladybird shield. Now, for this build, I put the Tick weapon down the mighty path. You may, be able to change it to whatever you're fighting, such as fresh or spicy. And the Ladybird shield, I did just with a block-free attack. And now for the trinket, we have the compliance badge for parry, heal, and damage resist. Now, the parry heal synergizes really well with the seek effect, which is the increased health bonus. And the damage resistance effect doesn't really matter that much, as well you get increased healing, especially if you have smoothies, and also the fact that you're wearing heavy armor, so you're not going to take that much damage. And especially with Blade Master right here, which allows you to take less damage from using swords. Meat Shield, which gives you max health. Coup de Grace and Trapper Peeper for extra damage, as the Tick weapon is a pretty weak weapon. And Corporate Kickback for massive lifesteal. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you this armor set in action and tell you this is the reason why I put it at number 5. So, in this gameplay, as you can see, you're pretty much invincible while wearing this armor set. However, if you look at the Broodmother's health bar, the weapon does almost little to no damage to it. Now, don't get me wrong, you are pretty much invincible while wearing this armor, as the Blade Master mutation and as well as the lifesteal and the sleek effect from this armor just make it to where you will be able to heal up to max health even if you make a slight mistake. Because as you see in the gameplay right now, Blade Master is doing some work. I'm barely taking any damage, but that is why I'm putting this in the top 5. Just because of the fact that it's really good for defense. However, offense, in my opinion, it's pretty mediocre. The weapon you have for it barely does any damage at all, and its second option, which is the Tiger Mosquito Rapier, is probably a worse option despite the fact it has stun. So that is why this will be in the top 5. It is pretty good against all the bosses. Maybe not the infected Broodmother as much, just because of the fact that she does that decreased healing effect. But this is an armor set I recommend using for all the summonable bosses. But that's where I would put it in this list. I think it's a solid place for this build to be, just because you could heal yourself infinitely. But let's get on to the next build. Alright, so this next build is going to be a personal favorite of mine, and you may have seen it on my older videos, and it is going to be the Mantis DPS build. Now, what the Mantis DPS build has is the full sleek assassin armor, a mighty club of the mother demon that you can change the effect depending on what you're fighting, and for the trinket we have Force Pendant. Now, there are 3 perks that are needed for this build, which are both Coup de Grace Trapper Peeper and also Apex Predator. Now, Coup de Grace and Trapper Peeper are needed just so you could do the bleed effect with the Mantis armor, and Cardio Fade just so you can get some stamina back quicker, and Meat Shield because you are wearing light armor. Now, these 2 perks are kind of up to you to choose. However, Meat Shield and Cardio Fan are the 2 perks I would highly recommend with this build, as you are swinging a heavy weapon and also you are wearing light armor, but the Force Pendant, it gives that extra increase of getting a critical hit, as well as I think a 10% stat increase in other stats. I forgot what it was. And the Mighty Club of the Mother Demon is just going to deal the most amount of damage, in my opinion, to the most amount of enemies in the game. And as well as Apex Predator, it's going to just help you out with dishing out more damage with the Mighty Club of the Mother Demon. As well as the armor, once you get a crit, it has a chance to inflict the bleed effect and an extra stun damage, which is just going to synergize super well with the Club of the Mother Demon, as not only you're going to be dealing venom damage, bleed damage, as well as the extra stun. But a huge downside in this build, in my opinion, has to be the fact that the armor, it's good, however, it is light, and as you'll see in this gameplay here, when I summon the Mantis, and you're all just going to see how much damage this build can do, but as well as its major drawback of why it's number 4. So, as you can see, block that attack there, got a crit, the bleed and venom effects going off, but as you can see, I got hit there and it took off half of my health. Now, if I didn't have Meat Shield, I probably would have took a lot more damage, but as you can see, I believe this is around 20-25 seconds into the fight, and the Mantis is already like a quarter down from its health, which makes this build pretty much melt most enemies in the game. But as you can see, once again, I'm already at half health due to the lack of defense for this build. So that is why I put it at number 4. You know, it's still a really good armor set. You know, it can dish out a bunch of damage in a short amount of time. It barely has any defense to compensate for its amazing offensive capabilities. And not only that, but the Infected Broodmother pretty much fully counters this build by being resistant to the bleed effect to a certain degree, and also being fully immune to the poison as well as stun. Now, and as well as the fact that after the 1.0 update launched, crit builds were nerfed pretty heavily. So this build, it's pretty good, but it is far from its full capability. So that is why I'm going to put it at number 4. You know, I still think it's a pretty solid build. It could pretty much melt most of the bosses as well as most of the enemies if it wants to. And let's get on to the next build. Alright guys, so this next build is another personal favorite of mine, and in my opinion probably one of, if not the best ranged build in the game, and it is going to be the Bard Summoner build. Now, the Bard Summoner build was mainly introduced during the 1.2 update when the Wasp Queen in the toy box came in, where all the wasps were. And I gotta say, this build so far has to be one of my favorite builds. It's probably my go-to build to run right now. I do know there's another variant that instead of the wasp robe, it uses the wasp chest plate that Sir Simulot made, but we also have the Bard's Bow for this, and also the Widow Whittling Trinket for the Black Widow summons. But yeah, like I said, I'll probably link Sim's video down in description for the other variant of the Bard Summoner build. But what the bow gives is the minor threat bonus, which means that you're not going to be, enemies have less of a desire to attack you and instead will attack your summons, which can be pretty useful in case you need to heal mid-fight. So your summons can still do damage to whatever you're fighting. And, you can obviously just sit back from a distance and heal up or just shoot him with the bow and arrow. So now let's get on to the perks of the build. Now, for our first perk, we are going to use Sharpshooter to use less stamina for bows and crossbows, Mom Jeans to summon Spiderlings, Apex Predator to summon a Wasp from your bow, Mate Series Stranger to summon the Mant, and finally Bardic Inspiration to heal your allies and damage enemies. Now, in this gameplay, you're going to see how powerful that Bardic Inspiration debuff to enemies can be. So, as you could see here, I'm just fighting the Wasp Queen, my bad. Now, in this gameplay, you could see that she is taking a bunch of tick damage with this build. Now, unfortunately, I didn't really capture the best moment with this build. As you can see, all you really see, I think, throughout is just the Wasp that I summon and also maybe some of the Spiderlings the Mant doesn't spawn in or anything, but as you can see right here, the bleeding effect constantly stacks up as well, which is able to do double the bleed damage, which is already a really good plus side, as well as the venom from the whittling taking place there. Because as you can see right now, she's currently distracted on my whittling. She's trying to kill it. Well, I'm able to just get easy pop shots, and as you can see, for a split second, I was able to buff my whittling and get a Wasp summon to deal more bleed damage and also poison damage. Now, unfortunately, she does summon Wasp here, however, I should get the Bardic Inspiration buff. As you can see, the bleed effect, and in a second here, I believe, boom, all of them just pop, just dead on the floor from the bleed effect. Is just a major advantage to having this build, as the crowd control for this build is absolutely immaculate. Any boss that summons ads or anything like that, as long as you get that Bardic Inspiration buff to where the bleed effect goes off for everything around it, just boom, they'll all start slowly dying, especially if it's something like the Broodmother, to where it's the Spiderlings that don't have a lot of health. It's going to help a lot from the Healthy Harmony and also the Bardic Discouragement buffs and debuffs that it gives. Just makes this build overall like one of, if not the best range build. But we're going to put this build away, and we are going to move on to our second to last build, which I think a few of you might be surprised by. But anyways, let's get on to our second to last build. Alright guys, so this build might surprise a lot of you, but it is my favorite tier 2 armor, and that is going to be the offensive Koi build. Now, this Koi build got me the gold card for the infected Broodmother, and what it has is the Toenail Scimitar. Of course, you could change it depending on what you're fighting. For the trinket, we have once again Force Pendant for that 10% stat increase in mostly everything. Now, what makes this build so good is actually going to be the full set bonus that the Koi armor has to offer, and that is going to be the Dazzling Retipose, I believe, what it's called. Enemies you perfect block are filled with self-doubt, and what that means is that when you perfect block, you have a 50% chance to lower an enemy's defense by 50%, as well as parry stun, and also that perfect block. Now, since this is a light armor, you are going to be taking a lot more damage per hit, so the perfect block perfectly compensates for that, as well as the fact it is tier 2 armor. But anyways, for perks, we got Blade Master for damage reduction while using swords, Parry Master for stamina on parry, Coup de Grace for more damage, Corporate Kickback for massive light seal, as if you do get hit while wearing this armor, chances are any tier 3 enemy is going to kill you, and Shocking Dismissal to kind of get that AoE effect, and also just kind of stagger enemies that can't be stunned, which is perfect for the clip that I'm showing you right now, which is me fighting against the infected broodmother. Now, this is actually footage between the first phase and the second phase of the infected broodmother fight, as the third phase took way too long to record. But as you can see, the Dazzling Retipose effect is doing perfect, as well as the Blade Master effect. It is just absolutely shredding through the broodmother's health. Now, unfortunately, I did take a hit there, but Blade Master compensated for it. And doing this, you're just going to constantly apply the defense reduction to that, and as you can see, boom, that crit just took a full bar out of the broodmother's health. But getting on to the second phase here, you're going to see how quickly I'll be able to dispatch of her. So, see, I parry her scream there, and as you can see, she's already down a few bars just by hitting her. Now, granted, she does heal here, but just the constant parry, as well as the defense lowering effect, just absolutely makes it to where you will shred through enemies. Now, granted, you are on the less tankier side, so that is one thing you do gotta look out for. Another perk I also recommend for this build is Meat Shield, just due to the fact that you aren't going to have a bunch of defense with this build, and if the infected broodmother does that triple attack, you are going to take a bunch of damage. But also in this gameplay, you know, that bomb took away half of my health, and I was able to heal up a bit. Now, this isn't going to happen all the time, because the main problem with this is it's similar to the fist build, to where it's kind of like a high skill gap, and one mistake could result in you dying. But a major downside to this build is also the unblockable attacks, such as the bomb attack from the infected broodmother, and also the infected wolf spider. And right here, I managed to kill her in, I believe it was about a minute 30. I'm not sure, but this is why I put this build at number 2. It is kind of similar to the fist build, to where unfortunately you do need it is kind of a high skill gap, but the trade-off for it just means you're practically invincible while doing a bunch of damage in return. So that is why I put this at the number 2 spot, and let's get on to the final build. Alright guys, and for this final build, it is going to be the Fire Ant Corrosion build. And if you watch my top 5 best armor sets, the Fire Ant, you'll know that the Fire Ant armor is probably the best armor you could wear in the game. Now, a few reasons why I think this is true is because the corrosion effect is kind of similar to the Dazzling Retipose effect from the Koi armor, except you don't need a perfect block. It just randomly applies, which results in an enemy's defense being lower, as well as the acid damage, which also randomly applies, but deals, I think, about 30% damage. But anyways, let's get into the perks. For perks, we are going to have Blade Master for that damage reduction, Parry Master for stamina on block, Coup de Grace and Trapper Peeper for damage, and Cardio Fan for stamina recovery. Now, I'm just going to let this footage play out just because of the fact that this build is so powerful. As you can see here, just from the gameplay, the Infected Broodmother, now granted she does heal here, so it's not really a great impression so far, but you'll see later on in this footage right here that, as you can see, already a bunch of the status effects are popping up, and she is just kind of getting her health melted. I think it takes almost like a full 3 swings to take off a bar of her health. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is. I'm not sure. But as you can see, she's already about down to a quarter of health by me almost barely doing anything. Like, all you really got to do for this build is just block, and the armor set will just do the rest. It is just like that powerful of a build to where you almost don't need to do anything. You just need to, swing and block, and then oh, sorry about that voice crack. And then the armor set just does the rest. Because as you can see, she's already about down to a quarter of her health, and she is just getting absolutely annihilated right now. Another good thing about this is that the acid splashes, how I was mentioning earlier, deal additional damage to her, which just also makes this armor set, in my opinion, just an easy S tier armor set to use. I highly recommend using this as well as this build to destroy any boss in the game. It doesn't matter what boss or enemy you're using it on, this build will just pile drive through it. And this is why I'm putting this build at number 1. Just easily, by far, the best build for killing bosses in the game. But anyways, guys, that is going to be all for today's video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and a comment below, and let me know what builds I should use or review next. It could be your build, it could be a friend's build, anyone's build. I'll make sure to use it and review it. But that is going to be all, and I'll see y'all in the next video, so peace.